Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Elevating Men. I'm your host, A.L. Johnson. Thanks for joining us again. Very happy to be back. Last week we weren't here. We had a couple of the guys that were out. They had some other engagements. And so we're just really, really excited to be back. Just got a little bit of housekeeping real quick. We are still on our drive to get more mentors for big brothers and big sisters. And so if you know anyone in the East Side, Kansas City area who would be a good mentor, please reach out to us or big brothers and big sisters because we need your help. There's over 200 children who are waiting for mentors. And we definitely want to fill that need. It's extremely important that every boy and girl in our community has someone that they can look up to, that can inspire them and let them know that they can be great. And so help us out with that, please. Help us out with that. Also, we got a lot of big things coming down the pipeline. We want to thank all of our listeners, everyone who's been following us here on YouTube, on Facebook. We appreciate each and every last one of you. If you want to catch up on any of the streams that you missed, you can visit our YouTube channel on Elevating Men, or you can go to our Elevating Men Facebook page. Okay. And definitely, as always, share this information with the men in your lives that you love because it's all about improving the man so that we can build better families and better communities. And so I know you're probably wondering, you're like, there's a lady here. This is Elevating Men, and you've never seen a woman on the panel. And so this is history right here. So mark it on your calendar. But the beautiful lady that you see here is Miss Joyce A. And she's the author of this book, Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child, a personal memoir of life, love, and hope, all through the eyes of a fatherless child. And that's what we're talking about today, the importance of men being in the lives of their daughters. We always have the conversation about, if a father isn't there for his boy, the things that he deals with, the things that he doesn't learn, and how it makes life more difficult for him. But today, we're going to flip the script a little bit and talk about it from a female perspective. And so, how are you doing today, Miss Watts?
I'm doing awesome, thank you.
Good, good. Now, just starting out, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to actually write this book?
Well, I wasn't intending on writing a book. I was trying to just do some help, self healing, and I just started journaling. And as I journaled through the past and reflecting on some of the things that I went through, I started putting them into chapters, and it was started to be a little funny. Some of the things were funny to me as I reflected back, and some things were really sad, but some were funny. And so I let some of my friends read it, and they said, "This is so good, you should write a book." And so that's how my journey began, writing the book. It started off just as a healing journal for myself, and it's turned out to be a healing journal for others as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know in myself going through the book, found a lot of parallels in my life. And so, I'll kind of throw those out there as we go through the discussion. But can you just tell us, starting from the beginning? I like the way that you wrote the book. And I also enjoy reviewing books of, regular people who have become authors, versus someone who has an agenda, or a celebrity or something like that. You don't have
Yeah.
anything to sell. You don't have anything that you're pushing. You just wanted to share your heart. And I think that's beautiful. And so starting at the beginning, it sounds like you had kind of the perfect Brady Bunch type of life going on. You had your
Yeah.
mother, your father, your siblings. You sounded like you were in a middle class neighborhood. Things were great. What
Yes.
happened from there?
Things were well, really, really well. And I was so young that I didn't even remember those times. I had to be filled in by my mom and my sisters and brothers, my older ones, to, kind of fill in those blank spaces that I was too young to remember. But we were really pretty well off. My mom said we were the only Black family in the neighborhood at the time. My dad was a firefighter, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and they owned a restaurant as well. And I, at the time, was probably about 4 or 5 when the divorce happened, and it just kind of went downhill from there because I never got a chance to even experience the other side that my older siblings were able to experience. So it was pretty, the whole time, fatherless for me.
So, what was that dynamic like with? I'm sure your older siblings probably had stories about your father, things that you don't remember. What was it like hearing those things and not being able to recollect them yourself?
Well, my mom just shared a story with me about my older brother that my dad would take him everywhere and would buy him so many toys and just that was like his buddy, and he was like the favorite of son. And after my dad left, my brother started to act out, and so my mom said that that was the reason. She just realized that was the reason that he started to act out, was because he was so close to my dad and he just left. And
Wow.
so yeah, that was one of the stories she just shared with me. And it's really hard to get older people sometimes to even give bits and pieces. You have to kind of like drill them and
Right.
like pin
Right.
them down. Like, can you share something? Can you tell me something? We want to know something about, you know, the past, and so we can glue things together and try to
Exactly.
fit them together to find out what happened. And to sit down with an older person and get that information is really important. I did not know we had a restaurant. I didn't
Wow.
know they owned a restaurant. And until just a few years ago, she told me, yeah, we own a restaurant. I'm like, what? Why are you just now telling us this? So, because
Wow.
we own a restaurant, and
Okay.
everybody in the family, everybody is an entrepreneur, all of my brothers and sisters. And my dad was an entrepreneur. And so that was one of the things we realized, like, okay, it ran in the family. And we
Right.
didn't know where that came from. Oh, my dad. He's always had his own business, and he's always been, and he was a pastor as well. And
Wow.
my mom is a pastor
Oh,
too now.
wow. So, like I was telling you before, you and I have a lot in common. And so, my father, we, we had a long distance relationship, just like you did. He was
Right.
a pastor as well.
Wow.
And I found out after he passed away that a lot of the men in my family were entrepreneurs because he lived out of
Wow.
town. With them, there
Right.
were a lot of uncles I had never really, developed a relationship with, and so I'm just now finding out after his passing that that's where my entrepreneurship streak comes from,
Right.
and so it's very
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the book, and for those of you that are just tuning in, this is Miss Joyce Watts through the eyes of a fatherless child. We're talking about women who grew up without their fathers and how that affects them in their lives. It's a great book. For people who want to read the book, how can they get a hold of this?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And at the time, my name was Joyce Brown at the time. So it says the author's Joyce Brown. So if you go to Amazon and Google or do the search through the eyes of a fatherless child, look for that picture. That picture is actually my granddaughter, a picture of my granddaughter. She was looking sad one day. I said, she looks like a fatherless child. So I added her to the book.
She's a cutie. She's a cutie
She
too.
really is a
She
cutie,
really
yes.
is.
But she's not fatherless. Her father's in her life, but she looks so sad. It just kind of made me think that that's how I would look without my dad. And so
So
I chose that picture.
it's interesting that you say that. And so you chose a picture of a sad child. Does that kind of sum up your thoughts or your feelings at the time of growing up?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Without my dad, and it was because certain things that happened. Because we didn't really realize um, how much we didn't really miss anything without having a father so much until we grew up and we realized, oh, because my mom really stepped in and we didn't realize that we were poor because she didn't make it a big deal and we had everything that we needed most of the time. So
Hmm.
we would go visit my dad. He lived in California and then he lived in North Carolina. So we would visit him, and at those points of time is when I realized that something was not right because he had other children
Hmm.
and the way he treated us was, not so great when we would visit him.
Yeah. So do you think that it was something where he felt like he needed to keep up a certain image or not distribute his love unequally between his new wife and children versus you guys
Right.
coming
Yeah.
in from out of town? And so,
Yeah.
okay,
I think
I
his
see.
new wife was really, and I loved her, but at the time when I was young, I don't think I liked her too much because I figured she was the reason why my dad wasn't there, but I don't think she was. But yeah, I think he didn't want to show his other two kids that we were as important as they were. That's the way I felt because he treated us really different than the two younger girls.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
That's very interesting. Now, there's one part of the book that really struck home for me. And so we actually had a guy on the panel a few weeks back, and he made a phrase, and it was presence over presence. Like actually being there in the child's life versus relying on the presence. And in your book, you talked about how on Christmas there would be
Oh
this
yeah,
big U-Haul truck that would pull up
yeah,
every year with all
yeah,
these gifts. And as a
yeah.
child, you thought that that was enough. But as you got older, how did your thoughts on that change?
Oh, it changed. Because we really did. We thought he was the best. We thought he was like greater than our mom because every year he'd send so many presents. But he was a toy lover. He had a toy shop, and we would always get so many toys. And we really thought that was the best. But then later, we felt that void that was missing. It was he was trying to fill it with the gifts, and it didn't work anymore. We needed that presence of our father.
And so your mother, I have to commend her because in reading this book, what I gathered is you had a strong mother who loved you and your siblings very much. She worked very hard to make sure that you were provided for, even though it was difficult. What was that like financially growing up with such a large family with just a single mother just on her own?
It was in the beginning when we were younger, I didn't think it was hard, but as we became um, older, middle school, it was really, really difficult. She tried to put us through private school, myself and my younger sister, and then money got tight, and she had to uproot us, and we moved a lot. And she uprooted us and sent us to public school. We didn't even have clothes to wear to a public school. So she told us, because she couldn't afford the private school anymore, she said, okay, if you go to regular school, you get some new clothes. So that was the deal. But we knew, we figured it out that okay, she just can't afford to send us. So we'll just, go for the regular school. And so when she got new clothes for us, we've got 5 outfits each. And we just that was really rough because for the whole school year, I mean it wasn't for the whole school year, but for the first few months or so, we had 5 outfits to wear.
Oh yeah, I
So
know that was tough because kids can be cruel. They can be
they
cruel.
can be
So
they can be really cruel. And you know what? During high school, I didn't experience any cruelness towards myself. I did see it happen to other people that I had to stand up for, and I was always the smallest one in every grade. So I don't know why I felt like I was big enough to defend people, but I turned into the defender of the kids that were being bullied. So, and I don't know where that came from. That might have come from me not having my. I don't know where that came from, but that was my role.
mm. Now one thing that we talk about when you grow up with a father and your mother is the only person there, you have this anger from your father not being involved. And when we talk to the men on the men's panel, we talk about misplaced anger. And so sometimes little boys will take anger out on their mother because the father isn't there, and that's who they're really angry at. Did you ever have any moments like that with your mother?
We probably did. Yeah, I think we would get angry because we. I can pinpoint one specific time where my grandmother and my dad and his family were really well off. And my grandmother lived here, and she was a doll maker. And at this time, we didn't. She made all of us dolls, glass dolls, and she sewed all the clothes to the dolls. They were beautiful, and they sat on our dresser, and we couldn't play with them. And they were brown babies. And my mom didn't have money, and we didn't have food at this particular time. And so we just saw her on the phone calling around trying to sell stuff. And she was trying to sell our dolls. And we were so, I know I was so angry because that was the only thing I had from my grandmother was this doll. And my mom was trying to sell it. And I was so upset that she would even think to even do that. But she didn't sell them. She couldn't get enough money from them, so she didn't sell them. But that anger there, that was some misplaced anger. She was trying to do the best that she could. She worked several jobs, and a lot of mothers do. You hear that often.
Yeah.
And my dad never ever paid child support, never. And he lied and said he didn't have any other kids, and so we never saw a dime from my dad.
Wow. Well, how did that make you feel? He was a business owner. He was out in California, had another family, had the big house. He was able to afford to send all these presents, every year. What did that feel like? Was there any like resentment towards him, and
Oh
when did that
yeah.
kick in?
Yeah, I think it started to kick in probably middle school age, and he would
Okay,
send pictures. He would send family pictures to us of him and his family doing photo shoots and things like that. And
right,
we were like, what? We're not even eating, and you're taking pictures. You're on the beach. We're not even eating. That I think that's when I started to really hate him. And I know hate is a really strong word, and I've gotten past that. And writing the book helped me get past that. And
mm,
I really I hated him. I hated
oh,
him for what he put us through. It was like he didn't even try to help. Did not, he avoided us at all costs. And there was five of us, and he had one favorite, and it was my older brother, who's passed on now, but he would
sorry
send
for
for
your
him.
loss.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, he passed on about 30 years ago. He was only in his 20s, but my dad would send for him, and that's all. And so my brother was torn,
Mm,
and he was everybody's favorite. I don't know he was everybody's favorite. My sisters are not my favorite, and my other brother's favorite, and he was my dad's favorite. And so he was really torn because when my dad would try to send for him, he felt like he had to go. And
right,
so then he'd
right.
come back. And so it was odd. I didn't know why my dad would, pick
Mm.
one over the other, but he did.
Did
And
you
he was a
ever?
pastor.
That's I went through the same thing, so I do
Yeah.
understand. Were you ever able to repair that relationship? Were you able to overcome or forgive him? Is he still living? Well,
He is actually, yes, he's actually still living, and he would tell us every year, "I'm coming to see you. I'm coming to see you," and he's never um, apologized, never. And I don't really need him to, because I feel like I'm healed from that. But I sent him a book, and I don't know if he read it, but
okay,
he has never been to Kansas City. Um, I don't even think he came to his mother's funeral here. He had never been to Kansas City since he'd left us. But when I got remarried almost 2 years ago, he came to the wedding.
well, that's good.
Shocking. Yeah,
That's good. That's good.
it was really good. And so it was at my mom's church. So that was really awkward. My mom said, "I don't want him here." And I'm like, "Well, you know what, Pastor, you're gonna have him here." So so she had to heal too. And so she allowed him to come in, and it was beautiful. It really was.
Wow. Well, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I think you sharing your story can definitely help a lot of people who dealt
Yeah,
with the same situation. This is a big issue in our community, the
it
fatherless
is.
problem. And,
Mhm.
I appreciate you writing this book. And so, in our normal Monday fashion, of course, this is our men's panel Monday. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring the other brothers on the line here. But for those of you who are just tuning in, this is our third part of the series, A Man's Role in Women's Lives. We're talking about being a girl dad, and we have as a special guest Miss Joyce Watts, who's the author of this book, Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child, where she breaks down her life growing up without a father. And so let me bring on my brothers here. Give me just a second.
Okay, all right.
And so first to the panel, I got my brother LaRon Barnes, LaRon the motivator. I know you guys are accustomed to seeing him. How you doing, brother Barnes?
I'm wonderful, brother. Good to be back for a couple of weeks, but I'm back, and I love the faces.
All right. And then one of our other regulars here, Mr. Lojo Speaks, Lauren Jones. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's happening, Miss Watts?
Hi.
Miss Watts, yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
And certainly, last but not least, Mr. Ryan S. Harvey. He's actually been on the show before for a one-on-one interview. He's the author of the book Creating Your World, and he himself is a girl dad. And so, how you doing? Oh, I think you're on mute, bro.
Good. Oh,
Okay.
what's up, everybody? I'm super glad to be here with everybody. Miss Watts, I can't wait to read your book. I am going to
Thank
read
you.
it. I know how it feels to be a fatherless child, so this will be a dope episode for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, brothers, I know you guys were listening in from the background, and so you kind of heard everything that we've been talking about up to this point. I want to start with you, Lojo. What questions do you have for Miss Watts, and what did you gather from the conversation so far?
Man, so yeah, we was backstage like you was family feud, wasn't it? So I think the biggest thing that I took away was strength, right? That's the biggest thing I took away was how strong your mother was, and in turn, she passed that strength on to you guys. I know you made the statement to tell men that you don't need your fathers to say sorry anymore. Like you kind of moving past that in a lot of ways, and I think that was just a really a testimony to the strength that your mother instilled in you, and just that perseverance that despite the circumstances that you still wanted to push through, you still wanted to be a winner, and then now you're also becoming in a lot of ways a servant, and what I mean when I say that is you want to serve the community, to share your story, because we all connect through points of pain. And so, you're allowing, yourself to be vulnerable and, express your pain, which in turn somebody will read and be able to make that connection. And then maybe that will start the healing process for them. And I think that's the biggest thing that you're doing right now, if you don't already know that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Laurent, what are your thoughts so far?
And just listening to your story, Ms. Watts. I know we talk a lot about men on the platform, being fatherless, but to understand that women feel the same emotions as men when it comes to not having a father. Like, I thought, to be honest, personally, there was only a man thing that we felt we can feel more resentment towards our fathers because, we didn't have that tough guy there or the person who's supposed to lead us and guide us. But just to know that women deal with the same effects, at one point, even as myself as a father, I didn't know, I recognized it. I didn't know why, but even dealing with my daughter, being in the house and present, being with her physically, but not being present at times, I was that person who was doing that. And thank God I recognized it, but just to know that your daughters are affected the same way when they're not getting the same attention, and that can build resentment, and that can build a wall, and it can do so many things. So I mean, like, I think that just helps hearing it from another perspective. That's personally for me.
Perfect. Now, in our conversation, me and Ryan Harvey, we talked a lot about being a girl dad. Ryan is a single father. It's something that you really don't hear about a lot. We hear about single mothers all the time, but from a single father's perspective, hearing Miss Watts' story and her growing up without her father and what that was like, how does that touch you specifically?
It's really deep because it puts me in a position of really realizing in ways how valuable I am to my child and her growth. I think one of the things that is super important is realizing that my decisions, and I know we kind of talked about this last time, but realizing that my decisions or my actions directly affect somebody else's life greatly. And I think a lot of ways, a lot of times, us men really don't really think about our decisions, even in the moment sometimes, and how they directly affect someone else's life and the trajectory of their life. But one thing I did want to ask, if this was okay, I wanted to ask Miss Watts, what was one of the things that you went through as a child that you kind of wondered, like, why am I going through this? But then as you got older, you kind of met somebody personally. Did you ever have a moment that you realized, I realized why I went through these things? the emotions of not having a father, did that kind of push you into a beyond the book, but did it push you into a place of realizing that there was somebody that was directly connected to you not having your dad?
Well, I had I shared this with Al, and I don't know. I have we owned a bakery, Big Mama's Bakery, and we were in
Mhm.
Crown Center. And I forget that I'm an author. People have to remind me, "Oh, you're an author." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forget." I didn't write it for I didn't even care if I sold a book. I gave away a lot of books, but I did sell a lot. But I had a lady come in from out of town, and I really thought the book was for my own healing, and she bought a book for her daughter. And a year later, a little girl came into the bakery and she said, "I'm looking for the author of this book." I'm like, "Oh, that's me." And she started to cry. She was probably 11 years old. She started to cry. She said, "I read your book and it helped me so much because I don't have my dad." And at that moment, I said, that was my purpose. It was her. Even if it was nobody else, it was her that needed what I had written and what I had gone through. It was for her. And I want to put one more thing out too, that I have not pinpointed at all. My mom never ever said anything bad about my dad. Never. She never talked down about him, or you know we didn't know a lot of things until we were adults, and that was one thing that made me really look at her in a whole different light, because she could have done so many things and just really slammed him, but she's never said anything bad about him while we were growing up.
That says so much about your mom. That says so much about your mom. You muted.
You muted, Andrew.
Apologize for that. No, but the event that caused you and your parents to split up is the same exact thing that happened in my household. And
Wow.
so I commend my mother to this day, because she never, not one time have I ever to this day heard her badmouth my father. In fact, she used
Right.
to make me send him, Christmas cards and birthday cards and all of that. And so she really
Right.
taught me the power of forgiveness, and
Yeah.
being able to move on, and taking those hurts and those pains and turning those into power.
Mhm.
That's one thing that she taught me. Now, this question's been burning me up all week, because I have two daughters myself, and so my oldest daughter is 14; she'll be 15 soon, and I have a daughter that just turned 9 years old. In your book, you started talking about like your high school years, and I kind of want to stick there a little bit. What was the difference in not having your father as a child? Because I know that you said he left so early that,
Mhm.
5, 6, 7, 8, you really didn't notice, but as a teenage girl, how did that affect you at that point in your life?
You know, my brother that passed away, he stepped into that role as father. And I don't know, in the book, we were younger, and I said that he, dressed us up and took us out for ice cream and stuff. He really stepped into that role, and my other brother did as well. But my older brother really stepped into it. So I didn't know, because I didn't know what I was missing, because I never had it. And just looking back and wondering how it could have been. The only thing that I can think is when he would send us pictures of how happy they were. That was my sad times in high school, when we would look at those pictures and see how happy they were with his new family, and he didn't think about us in
I
any
can only
way.
imagine. I can only imagine, because it's like one thing when your father's not in your life, you can almost
Yeah.
write it off to, he's just this type of man. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like he's a
Yeah.
bad man because he's not there for his
Yeah.
children. But then to see him do everything right for other children, that
Right.
had to be something.
Yeah, and I don't know. In the book, I'm gonna give you this little teaser for those who haven't read it. We went to California, and my dad promised to take us to what Disneyland, Disney World, whichever one is in California. We were. I might have been maybe fourth or fifth grade. I don't remember. I was young, and when we got there, that was the whole reason why we were going. And we went to the beach, and we really thought we were going to have a good time going. And he pulled us into a room, and he said, after he talked to his wife, he put us into a room and he said, we decided we're just going to take the 2 younger kids. And if it's fun, we'll come back and get you and take you too. And we never went.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me this. So I know you said you had your brothers; they were there in your life, and so it kind of softened the blow a little bit. But just say
Yeah.
like when it came to school, because I remember certain times there would be father son this, father son that, and I might be okay until that time comes. And so what was that like when it be maybe father daughter dance time or something along those lines?
Well, see, we didn't have that then. I think that's the newer thing, but we didn't have father daughter. And then a lot of our neighbors and classmates, they didn't have their dads either. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood with everybody has their dad and I don't. It was the norm, which is sad, but it was the norm. I don't remember any fathers on our block
Mm.
growing
No
up as a
fathers on the whole block.
Yeah, I can't remember any fathers on the block when we were young. No.
Man, Lojo, as a mentor, as a father, what do you feel like when you hear that? What does that feel like?
Man, that's like punching me in the gut without having the ability to catch right before the punch is coming. You know, I mean, I can connect to that. I can totally connect to being in a neighborhood full of other kids, other families, and dads not being there, and you know, it just hurts. I mean, that's just the honest to God truth, because you realizing that this is a herd process, this is a herd mentality. You know, when you have large groups of, mothers and children without fathers, and I mean, it just hurts. I mean, I could have did that. I could have, because I didn't have my father in my life, but it was important for me to make a different choice because I didn't want to put that pain on another kid. And so, just hearing that, it just brings back memories of being in the same similar neighborhoods where, you get so close to people that people's mother become your aunties, even though there's no blood relation. So it's like we went over this auntie's house or that auntie's house, and yeah, there was never a man there. Maybe every once in a while, maybe an uncle popped up or something like that. But just no real father figures. So I mean, that's to hear that is just it's a punch in the gut, man.
It really is. It really is. And then I'd like to, Ryan, just for you, because your situation is unique. You had to go through a process. So for those of you who did not see that interview, it's classic. Like, let me get a little closer. Go see that interview. Like, you can go to YouTube, Elevating Men, or you can go to our Facebook page, but revisit the Ryan Harvey interview. He has a book, Creating Your World, where he really breaks down a simple process for attaining what you want out of life. But he himself is a single father. And so we talked a lot about that. And so from your viewpoint, you had to go through, DFS to get your daughter. And so you had to go through the fire. This wasn't just, she was there. You had to jump some hurdles to get to her.
Yeah.
What does it feel like hearing about a father that just completely vacates it in that type of way? Like, well, how do you receive that?
And, I don't receive it well. I'm going to just keep it 1,000 with you. I do not receive it well. But more so, it takes me back to a time when I was fatherless. And my older brother and sister, they have memories with my dad. They know what my dad likes as a food, as a favorite drink, how he walks, how he talks, how he responds. Like my older brothers and sisters, like they have those memories. When my dad got with my mom, his mom didn't really vibe with my mom too much, so we didn't get our father at all. So, just hearing that and seeing the other family vibe, you know what I mean? I remember feeling that, and I think in some ways, I think that is one of the biggest reasons I went so head on with getting my child out of foster care, because we talking about Olathe, Kansas, and anybody outside of the Kansas City area, Olathe ain't nothing to play with, right? And so for me to be in that position, it was like, yo, I'm not going to be like my father. I'm not going to be in a position where I let this feeling that I've had to live with try to overcome and try to find manhood without having a man in my life. Yo, I don't want any child of mine to feel anything like that. And maybe that's led me into being a mentor. So yeah, I couldn't respect anything like that at all. Being in a situation of seeing so many kids in foster care without family members, nah, I can't handle that.
It is it's definitely tough to hear. Now, as far as the effects of it, I think this is important for us to get into, because as men, we can always say what we assume a woman goes through or deals with when the father isn't in the home. One thing that we talk about is the relationship that they'll eventually have with men. And so, just from the mouth of a woman, like we want to know, like, how does that affect a young girl not having her father when it comes to her choice in men? Are there automatic trust issues from the abandonment? Like, what is that like?
You know, I think it just pushed me into a place where anyone that would love me, that missing love from my dad, that first person that would come into my life and, treated me like they loved me, that was it. And that led me to be in a marriage for 35 years and unhappy. And I'm thankful for my kids. I stayed for my kids. I could have left a long, long time ago, but I didn't. And I stayed. It wasn't abusive. It was just, it wasn't good. And I've recently been divorced a couple years, and I got remarried, met my husband over here. And now
Congratulations.
Where he
I
at?
feel like
Where he at?
here he is. Come here.
He said, man, I wasn't coming in here for that. Come on over here, baby. Come on. I
Nice
wasn't
to
doing
meet you. Nice to
All
meet
right.
you.
Yeah, so now I feel like I'm found somebody that loves me, not just, because I'm missing something, and this is real love. And I'm like, I never thought I could find this. And, I found it. He found me.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for
I'm
you.
going across half the country to get her.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow.
that.
So, anyone that would love you, um,
Hmm.
mm, that hit me really hard. I can't.
Yeah.
That hit me
Man,
so
Yeah.
hard.
I'm trying to
You,
stomach
you,
that.
you just reach, you just reach and you accept whatever if it feels like love.
Mm,
And it's so important for that dad. And my ex-husband was a wonderful father, just was not a wonderful husband. So my daughters felt that love and felt that what they needed from their dad. And they ended up with people like their dad. They married and they found that love that they got from their dad. So I saw how a father would be in a household. That's what I saw, and that's what I saw that I missed watching my daughters and my son growing up. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I missed right there. I missed,
mhm,
now they're adults, and my daughters are like daddy girls, and they
Mm.
just will do whatever for their dad, and so that's something that I missed, and I see it now through them.
So, is that part of what caused you? You said it wasn't an abusive relationship, nothing of that nature, but was the fact that you didn't have your father what prompted you to stay in a relationship that you weren't happy in for the sake of the children?
I think I stayed because I one thing my mom did, she never brought men into our lives. And that was one reason why I didn't want to leave. I didn't want strange men around my daughters. So I suck it up and just stayed miserable, but I stayed. I stuck it out because I did not want my kids to have to readjust their lives because I was miserable.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's a sacrifice that you made for them, and
Yeah,
I hope that they appreciate it. I hope that they appreciate it because that's
yeah,
a huge sacrifice.
yeah.
Guys, do you guys have any input on what you heard on that?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Same thing.
You said that you didn't you don't feel like you needed your father to apologize. Did you guys get to have any type of conversation about him leaving and kind of the feelings that you had and how that made you feel? Did you guys ever get to have a conversation?
You know, I wish we could. My dad's, I guess, old school. We would bring it up. He would not talk about it. My older sister asked him, "Do you feel like you need to apologize for leaving us?" He would not. He wouldn't talk about it. So he's sick now, and now he wants us to come there, and he wants us to call him every day. And he would call me after the wedding. He called me every single day. I didn't even know he didn't even have my number before. Now he's calling me nonstop. So we never had the conversation because he would not allow us to take him there. And he did tell my older sister he didn't feel like he needed to apologize for anything that he's done. So, we just had to forgive to get it off of us. We had to forgive and keep it moving.
Yeah, no, well, I don't understand only because like I'm,
Right.
my dad's still around, and I mean we've built a solid relationship now, but so I got to ask those questions, and I'll tell you, I asked him to be honest with me, and it didn't feel good at all. Like his honesty actually, and at that time, felt worse than wanting to actually hear the truth. And so, it actually drove me down a different path of darkness because I wasn't ready to receive what I was asking for. Uh, and so, I mean, but I do hope that that opportunity does present itself for you because while you don't think you need it, you do. And I'm not telling you that to tell you what to do, but we all need that healing, when we've had those deep emotional scars like that, regardless of if we've moved on in life. I do hope that you get that because it does make you, once you're able to really, digest it and understand it, right, wrong, or indifferent, it does release a certain pain and on the inside of you that allows you to really, really kind of take that monkey off your back because I mean we can go through life and deal with pain. I mean that's we all do that. We go through life and we deal with different pain points, but when it comes from somebody that brought you into the world, it's a different level of pain. And so I hope, and it sounds like the fact that he's trying to make those connection points that he is softening. So I do hope that even if it's on his deathbed, that you guys get to have that conversation because one of the things when I had the conversation with my father is I spent so much time trying to be the opposite of him that I was doing things out of character. And so when I got to have that conversation and really make that connection, I realized that I was almost just like him. And it came down to me making a different choice to be in the lives of my children that he didn't take the opportunity to make. But from a personality standpoint, the way we interact with other people, it was like two peas in a pod, like we were the same. And, when I was able to embrace that, I think that's when I really started to get my healing is when I began to embrace, wow, I'm just like this guy. He just made some choices that I didn't make, and so, but it doesn't, I was able to take the good guy and mesh it with the bad guy and be like, okay, he had his own struggles, things that he didn't really know how to deal with, so to say. But he's not necessarily a terrible guy. He just made some bad choices. Otherwise, I'm a terrible guy because I act just like him. So, and so I was able to really make those connections and say, okay, this is about choices at the end of the day. You can make a choice to do right, or you can make a choice to do wrong. It doesn't mean the person that made the choice to do wrong is a bad person. It just means that they probably didn't really assess the consequences that would come from the choice that they made.
Definitely. Yeah, and I agree with you on the healing portion, because before my father passed away, maybe about a year or so before, we were at least able to have a conversation. I can't say that it gave me all the closure that I needed or that I was seeking, but it was helpful, and it did soften the blow when he eventually passed away. And then from there, I still had a lot of questions. And so I agree with you, Lauren. If you do get that opportunity where you can have that conversation and get that closure, that's huge. That's huge. A lot of us don't get it.
Yeah, I wish I
Yeah.
wish I could get some closure like that.
And, and kudos to you for staying in that relationship for your daughters.
Yeah,
they were
definitely.
able to get
35 years.
different, something different, because what you did is you put them on a path that they won't have to go through now. They won't have to search for love in all the wrong places, but they can say, hey, I know what the love of my father felt like. So I have a general idea of what the love of a man should feel like. And so you charted a better path for them. So again, another pat on the back for you.
That is true. I do want to ask: Do you feel as if you've healed, and if you have, what would you tell the young women who may have gone through the same thing, and have you, if not, have you forgiven, at least forgiven in your heart your father for all the things that you've been through?
I really, I am healed.
Yeah.
And even though an apology, or I don't even know if it would even matter, because I've forgiven him, no matter if he apologizes or not, I forgive him. And I think for me, just having a relationship with the Lord in my life makes a huge difference for me. That was my journey to my healing, just prayer and journaling, and that kind of opened me up for forgiveness. And it would probably be nice for him to say, acknowledge that this is what I did, and I'm sorry for it. But even if he doesn't, I feel like I'm totally healed. I mean, I love him. I have no animosity against him. I have nothing bad in my heart for him. I wish him love and everything good. And we've gone to visit him, and we hug and talk and, hang out and stuff. And it's like, it's gone. And I don't have anything to, anything harboring within me. So I feel healed. I feel completely, healed. So advice to give to other young women: just learn to love yourself. And as you're loving yourself, start to learn to forgive. Because when you're holding on to that stuff, it weighs you down. And they're not weighed down. They're past it. They're not even thinking about it. But you're the one still holding it. And if you can let it go some kind of way, however you deal with things, if you prayer, whatever works for you, journaling worked for me. I'm telling you, in prayer. So I was able to, hey, you know what? Like he said, he is just a human being, just like, and we all make mistakes. And I'm not going to hold that against him for the rest of his life and the rest of my life. I'm not going to be bitter for the rest of my life. I want to be happy. And so letting go of all that stuff, it just put me on a path of happiness and let me live a better life.
That's awesome. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is another episode of Elevating Man. We've got a special guest here. This is Joyce Watts. She's the author of Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child. And we're just talking about what it's like to grow up without your father. And so all of the men on here are girl dads. You know, we've all got girls. And so we need to learn something from you, Miss Watts. So I've got, a couple questions. So one, you talked about how because your father wasn't in your life, there was a period in time where you were looking for love in all the wrong places. And so if a man gave you any type of attention or affection, you equated that to love, even though it may have been something else. And so for us as fathers, what can we do to instill self-worth within our girls so that they don't look for love in all the wrong places? What does that look like?
I think what I wished I would have had, and just seeing my daughters, just like the young man said, being present, even though you're there in the house, doesn't mean you're connecting. And learn how to connect and make them feel important, make them feel loved. I mean, take them out, spend time with them. My son-in-law is the he's a rapper, Kansas City local rapper, but they've got 4 girls, and he makes those girls the priority. I mean, they love their daddy. And now my daughter's pregnant with a boy, so that was like the greatest thing ever. But he put those girls on a pedestal and let them know that they are important. And I just purchased a picture for them. It says, know your worth, and then add sales tax or add tax or something. So just put yourself up higher and put your daughters higher and let them know that they are loved. Whatever way you can do that, spending as much time with them as you possibly can, because they're going to remember. I have memories of some of the things that could have happened or should have happened that didn't happen, the bad stuff. And so when you start creating those memories, start creating good memories so that they can reflect back like, oh, I remember my dad did this. And it really makes a difference, I believe, in the life of a girl. And because they won't be looking for just anybody to love, because they would have that void already filled from their father.
So a big thing that we really need to do is make sure that there isn't a void there in the first place that some, random man is able to come in and inadequately fill and leave our daughters, empty and just taken from. Um, that's good. That's really good. That's really good, because I feel like a lot of young women in our society today have that void. And so when you see some of the behavior on social media, a lot of the just putting yourself out there all over the place and things like that, do you believe that that's an attempt to fill that void, or do you think that's something else? Because we make a lot of assumptions as men. And so when we see a woman carrying herself in a certain way, we just make our assumptions as men. But as a woman, what do you feel that is?
And I see that too. And it just seems like this generation, the mothers have not taught the daughters, and some the fathers who just have not taught the daughters to love themselves. Because just seeing some of the things out there, sometimes I hate summer, and I love summer, but I hate summer because the things I'm gonna have to see, and that I don't want to see when summertime comes. Like, oh my God, put some clothes on, have some respect. But they don't hear that. They're not, because they're trying to find something, anybody to give them a like. And
Do you
it's
think
just
some
they're
of them are even
seeking.
aware? Like, do you think maybe they're not even aware that that's what they're looking for?
You know what, they'll say they're not, but deep down that's probably what it is. But they'll say that's not why I'm doing this. But I think deep down, because you're looking for something, you got to fill that void. When I got married really, really young, so I was just happy to be loved. At least that's what I thought. I felt like I was in love, and so just to get those daughters just just, even the mentors, the women mentors, just gather around them. And, I'm not saying go back to the old school and wear long, you don't have to do all that, but have some self-respect and some self-esteem, so yeah, I think it's just a void. It's just something missing.
Now I've got a couple other questions, but I definitely want to open the floor up. Guys, did you guys have any questions or input that you'd like to add at this point?
Where can I find this book?
Oh, the book is on Amazon. When you
Okay.
go to Amazon, and my name is changed, but it was Joyce Brown at the time, Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child.
All right. I'm getting into that.
Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Now,
thank
I did
you.
have a question too. So I think we got a little feedback. Okay. So the other question that I have, we talk a lot about, there was a show that we had a couple weeks ago when we posed a question to the audience about if a woman feels safer at night, just sleeping at night when there's a man in the home. And most of the women said yes. And so growing up as a fatherless daughter, did you feel protection issues, or were there any anxieties, around just there not being that protective figure in the house? What was that like?
You know, I, I smile because as a child, I didn't really feel that. I think because my brothers were there. But being married, I just said to somebody, I've never felt safe in my previous marriage ever. And I said, now I feel so safe, I can sleep, and so that is what that man should uh, be, that protector, and make you feel like you're safe. And so with my brothers there, I think that is one reason why, because they kind of took on that role, and I believe that I didn't feel unsafe because they were there. But like I said, in my first marriage, I never felt safe, and that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got a comment here from Miss Ryanda Hall. For those of you here that are here in Kansas City, I just did an interview with her last week. She's the owner of OCD Financial, and so definitely check her out if you need any tax or accounting help. But she left a message here. It says, in a Christian household, we teach our daughters who they are in a spiritual sense, but little girls still need to hear from their daddies who they are in the natural. They need that tangible man to speak into them. Um, Anybody, what are your thoughts on that comment? I think that's pretty deep.
I'm hearing affirmations. I mean, I think, even your girl should mainly hear from you, how beautiful she is, how you love her, how important she is, making her feel special, from the father, more than anything. Because once again, they're going to be looking for that in a man when they get outside of the relationship. And if they haven't heard it from their father, then a lot of times I believe that they'll accept anything to make them kind of feel good. So I mean, like, that's good just to have the presence of the father, and having them affirming them. I think, especially like I said, when they're going out into the world looking for a man. One thing I always do is I always tell I do this to my wife, all my babies, really, all my girls, and I tell them how beautiful they are, how much I love them, how special they are. And so they're always feeling that. So when they do leave the house, or they do leave the presence, or my daughters grow up and get married, they'll know, hey, this is what I'd expect. My husband should be telling me, that I am beautiful, so they can get that. But I mean, that's good. I like that comment. I like that.
And then I also want to add to that, because coming from a father, so it's one thing, 'cause I want to caution on that. A lot of women get taken by game, so to speak, because of what they want to hear. And a lot of men know what women want to hear. And so in addition to that, I believe that with the father being in the home, there's a certain type of love that's actually there when he says, you're beautiful. You can do anything. Keep your head up. It comes off completely different, than from a man who has an ulterior motive. And so I think that actually being there in the home, it really teaches a woman what a true you're beautiful looks like, versus someone who's just trying to, get in their pants, or whatever that may be. And so from like your perspective, was that ever an issue for you? I know you said that you were looking for love in all the wrong places, but as you matured and just growing as a woman, um, was there ever a point where you were confused on like, okay, does he really love me? Does he not? Because you didn't see, or how can I explain that? You didn't get that from someone that you know for sure loved you.
You know, that's a good point, because growing up, I don't ever recall, even my mom probably said it, but you didn't get that. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you didn't get that. And so you are looking for that. And so when you get it in the home and then you get it outside, it doesn't make it doesn't move you when you get it outside, because you're filled up. You're already filled up with that. When you leave the house, those just kind of like ricochet out for you, because you don't need that. And you can kind of see through the mess. So I think self-esteem for me was like really, really low. And so anybody that would, say anything admiring to me was like, oh, wow, okay, wow, that must be love. So he had a good point. Just, yeah, affirmation is so important, and letting your sons and daughters know that they're worth.
So Ryan, when you hear this, you're raising your daughter. I'm not sure. I think my oldest daughter and your daughter are close to the same age, and so you're getting close. Yeah, you're a few years away from some of these things. What do you gather from this portion of the conversation about just reaffirming your daughter, helping her understand that she's beautiful, but having it come from you, someone who really loves her, so that she can recognize when it's BS outside of the home?
Oh, well, see, I'm a big believer in putting my daughter up on game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a huge believer in not only did your daddy use the game, but your daddy know the game, and your daddy gonna teach you the game, right? And so while I'm teaching you the game, I'm also affirming and reaffirming who you are as a person. And then I'm not even asking, I'm just, all right, I'll put it like this. My only goal as a father is to drop seeds in my child's mind, right? Like, her brain is the land, and I have an opportunity to drop seeds. And so I'm in a blessed position to be able to water those seeds with life, right? Whether it be school, whether it be you're beautiful, whether it be you can do this, you're amazing, you're smart, all the affirmations. These are opportunities to water. So there's been so many scenarios, even while she's young, where our lights might have been out, or gas not working, or water might be off. And I'll look at her and be like, baby, I'm sorry. And she's like, yo, if you're not worried, I'm not worried. You know what I'm saying? And even at a young age, a kid is watching the power of a man and finding strength in that. So I think one of the greatest ways is me really working on becoming the best example of a man, of just my best self possible. If I know she's watching that, because then I am showing, yo, I am accountable to myself, not only in telling you this, but in my action. And so in that, I want you to also build that certain characteristic of being accountable to yourself. Besides decision making, that's hard for women. Decision making, I be trying to challenge my daughter to figure out something that she want to eat at 12. All right.
So, Ms. Watts, I've got to ask this for the men here that are raising daughters. What do you feel like? I know you said a presence. We kind of helped on that, but what would you say is the number two thing that we need to be doing to help our daughters become their best selves?
Oh, that's a hard one. It's all in one. Loving them, showing them that they are beautiful, letting them know they're beautiful, spending time with them, even one-on-one. One thing that I never saw on my kids, which I wish would have happened, was each one have a time to spend with their dad. Take one child out and do something with them. Spend one-on-one time with them, and make them feel important. And it's got to be genuine. And they're more important than the video games and the TV. I know you're tired when you get off work, but that's your legacy. And what they do is going to be a reflection on how you treated and raised them. So the love, for sure, we know you love them, but spending time is just so super important. And then the affirmation, let them know how beautiful they are, how important they are. You can do anything, you can be anything. Show up at school. Just come up to school. Kids love that. They might not say it, they love, come just drop in at school sometimes and just be that dad, be that super dad, that's like he said, put seeds, drop those seeds, because we're gonna remember, and let the good times outweigh the bad.
How much are you charging for this session, Miss Watson?
What'd you say?
How much you charging for this session?
I say there's a lot of game being spoken. I mean, when I say I'm over here on screen taking notes, you see this? I actually got a pen in my hand. I'm writing things down. Listen, last thing we wrote, show up in school. Listen, I'm actually probably gonna do this tomorrow. Like seriously, because with me personally, like I said, and it hurts to say it, but it's the truth. With myself, I was present with my youngest daughter, but I wasn't present at a point in time. And until one day I had to call her aside. Actually, I set her in the car. It was me and her. I set her in the car, and I literally told her, I said, baby, I just want to tell you that I love you, and I know sometimes that I may be upset or tell you I don't have time for you because I'm working and I'm trying to have things so you all can have a certain type of lifestyle. I said, but I want to tell you I love you, and you can come to me about anything, and I'm gonna start giving you more of my time. I had a conversation with her about that because I knew within my own self that I wasn't here. I couldn't keep giving excuses to say this is the reason why I'm doing this and not showing my baby girl attention, because if I don't show her attention, she's going to want to get it from somewhere else. And then I also noticed that when I wasn't showing her the attention, she was acting out, trying to get my attention. And so just kind of noticing these things, and every day, me personally, I'm working to be a better father. I want to be a better man, a better father, a better person in general. But just take from some of the things you said, Miss Watts. It's good because I'm really looking at doing these things, even beyond telling them that you love them, making them, let them know that let them feel that you love them. It's one thing to tell someone something, and another thing for them to feel it. So I mean, like everything you said, I definitely I'm definitely took in, and I'm getting to work tomorrow.
We all are. We all are. And so I had just we get ready to wrap this up. I want to be respectful of your time, but there's another question I had. So for the women who are listening, you started off, you had a bad image of what love looked like, and so you would accept more. It sounds like you've really found true love now. And so for the women who are looking for that possibly grew up without it in the home, how did you know? Like, what were the signs? What were the telltale signs that, okay, this is real love?
That's a good question, because a lot of women have their checklist. And I tell you, I had my checklist after my divorce, and my checklist was thrown completely out the window. And when I met my husband, and we met in an unorthodox way, actually on Facebook. And I was not looking. That was the key. I wasn't looking. And he said something to me, and I just said, like, get out of here. And then he was a little persistent. And so I just started chatting with him, and he asked me to call him. And so when I called him, it was just something that just snapped. And within a week, he said, "You're gonna be my wife." I'm like, yeah, whatever. And he's from Detroit. And so I didn't think that was gonna be the end, but he fit. He was so funny, and we just laughed. We laughed like and when we met December 16th, 2018. It's 2018, yeah, 2018. We've not been apart since. And what made me realize this was it, the protection. I felt so protected. I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. Like, I had these jeans that were cut up, and I put them on, and I said, oh man, these, I can't wear these because they're just showing too much. And he said, you think somebody's gonna say something to you while I'm with you? I'm like, oh, okay. That was like, okay, I'm gonna keep the jeans on, so that protection is really important, even as a father, letting those girls feel that they're really protected. It makes a huge difference. I can walk, and nobody said anything to me. If I wasn't with him, they probably would have, but he said, you think somebody? I said, wow, okay, that confidence was just everything. So
Yeah, he from Detroit. He built different. He
yeah,
from Detroit. What up,
exactly.
dog?
Right. He said, what up though?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Well, I want to congratulate you, on really finding a relationship that you're happy in. You deserve it. You've been through a lot. For those of you that haven't read the book, it's literally it's written like a biography. And so it's given, it just from beginning to end, everything that she dealt with. And I enjoyed reading it myself. And so I definitely encourage you to visit Amazon and look up Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child by Joyce A. Brown. She has remarried. She is happy as can be. So the last name is Watts now. For those of you that weren't on before we got on, I said, yeah, Miss Brown. And her husband was in the background. He's like, it's Watts now. So he's taking claim to that. He's definitely taking claim. So that's a beautiful thing. But guys, before we wrap it up, do you guys have any questions? Because she's given us a lot of good information, things that we can really work with and apply. Any thoughts or comments for her?
Yeah, I had a question. I know that you said that growing up, your father didn't really want to talk about anything, and kind of at this point in life, still doesn't now. Have you ever had a conversation with your brothers about how they kind of felt through all this, and maybe why they kind of stepped up and took on that role as a result of him being absent? Have you guys ever had that conversation?
My older brother passed. I had two older brothers, but my oldest brother passed. But the brother that's right over me, we have had conversations, and I think he's one of the only ones that still kind of really hate how I'm bitter. He just cannot stand him, and he wouldn't even want to sit by him at the wedding. He didn't even really want to be in the same room with him. He was the one that I think was hurt the most, because that was my dad's favorite when they were married, when he was married to my mom. But yeah, we've had conversations about that. They had to protect us, and they had to step up and be that person, that male figure in the house, and that protector. And he would protect us. Growing up, you had to fight, and if you didn't help your brother or sister fight, then you would get a whooping when you got home. So yeah, we had we had to, they had to stick up for us and protect us.
Yeah, no, that's dope. I have an older sister, but being the oldest boy right underneath her, I mean, there were times where big dudes were smacking her on the butt, and they was getting a chokehold put on them or something like that, because it's just kind of that natural thing that you do. For the women in your life that you love, is you want to provide a level of protection, a level of defense for them. So I definitely applaud your brothers as well. If you get to talk to your brother, tell him from the panel that we applaud him for him, and even Big Bro, stepping up and taking on that role, because for a lot of us, especially the older siblings, we do take on that role and we experience a different level of responsibility, which brings a different level of pain because we have to bear that responsibility. And so, kudos to them for saying, hey, if he don't want to do it, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there was actually something else in the book that brings up another thought. So you were the youngest, but your oldest sister, she was like mother hen, like for the children, from what I can gather from the book. And so, as you guys matured and as adults, did it affect your relationships any differently with her having to take on responsibility versus you being the baby in the family? Was she more cold towards your father because of that, or do you see any difference in her relationship with men versus yours from being in that position?
Actually, I'm not the youngest. I do have one younger sister, but my older sister was always put in the position of the mom because my mom had to work so much. And I think all three of us girls experienced the same, and we married really, really young because I feel like, I can't speak for them, but I feel like that they were missing that void as well. And my older sister is still, to this day, thinks she's my mother. So she's taken on that role because my mom put her in that position to be the mother. And so she still acts like she's supposed to be the mother. But I really believe we all got married right out of high school. And I really believe that was a reason, because the missing, what was missing in our lives. And so my two younger sisters from another marriage with my dad, we have a good relationship. My two sisters, but we really resented them at one point because my dad paid for them to go to college, and and just really made sure that they were set, and we missed out on all of that. But we learned, I had to figure out, I had to redirect that hurt and that anger and take it off of them. And, because we were angry with them as well. But we have a really good relationship now with my two stepsisters. I realized there was no fault of theirs. It was my dad. So, yeah.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. I appreciate having you on. You taking time out of your busy schedule to pour into us men, because it's important that we hear from the women. A lot of times we make a lot of assumptions. We assume maybe we're doing things right. We assume what you all need and want and desire, but it's really good for us to be able to hear it directly from you. So I appreciate you giving us that opportunity. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're getting ready to wrap up. And so look for the replay. It'll be right here on my Facebook page. You can also go to the Elevating Men's Facebook page. And all of our videos are archived on YouTube at Elevating Men. And so go back and watch some of those. A lot of good content, a lot of good information. But the entire reason, the purpose that we're here every Monday is, one, to address issues with men's mental health. Men die from heart attacks because of stress. We have the highest rates of suicide. We have the highest rates of drug and alcohol abuse. And we're trying to bring those numbers down through enlightening conversations. We also recognize that there's a huge fatherless problem in our communities, and it comes from a standpoint of us as men being broken ourselves. And so for us to really rebuild our communities, we have to rebuild the man, and we do that through these conversations. And so we don't assume that we have all the answers. That's why we like to bring different people in and get different opinions, but we are open to having the conversation, and we believe that that's the first step to change. And so for the men that are here on the panel, last words, anything that you pulled from this, and then we'll save the very last word for our special guest, Ms. Watts. But I'll start with you, LaRon, the motivator.
I would just say thank you, Miss Watts. I'm telling you, this has been great hearing from you, and all the nuggets, tools, and just your story of the things that you've been through. I mean, one of the biggest things I'll say that I really took from this, it really is what you said. We had a conversation about, I know it was about what men. What does it mean to be a man? And, we had different kind of opinions, different kind of things like that. But this is kind of remind me when you said that what a woman really needs is to feel protected. I mean, that's a big thing. What a woman needs to be protected, and that kind of made me. That was like one of the biggest pieces of advice to me, and I thank you for that. Just being protected versus being a provider, and my baby's out here at you here, but being a provider and a whole bunch of other things. But just being a protector is what a woman really needs. And to be honest, even with myself, like I'm 31 years old now, and it's awkward, but I'm just kind of finding out that is a huge thing that a woman is looking for. So I thank you for everything that you had to offer on today's show.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that I thoroughly appreciate your time. You are a very, very, very beautiful woman. I appreciate you for so much of the things that you said to us that we will be able to individually use to hopefully enrich the lives of our children. So I appreciate you for never giving up and writing this book because you are doing something for us even right now. So I definitely respect you at the highest level and appreciate and love the person you are.
I can
You're on
only
mute, bro.
I can only echo that sentiment. You know, I think, you know, we talk a lot from a male perspective on this show because that's what we are. And so getting a different perspective, you know, from a woman's perspective, you know, and a woman that's come from a fatherless home, you know, it's incredibly enlightening, and you gave me so many enriching points. But I think the biggest point that I took out of this was that uh, you claimed your victory, and that's big. You know, just saying, hey, you know, if I never, I'm okay. You know, I've forgiven you for, you know, the hurt that you caused. It is what I've let it go. You claimed your victory, and that's so important, not only for, you know, women, but also or for girls, but also for boys to hear as well. That sometimes you just have to claim your victory, despite what has happened in your past and maybe the things that you missed on from not having a father. So that was the biggest takeaway for me is, you know, you just kept saying, I'm good, you know, I'm a winner here. You know, I'm going to look at myself as a loser because I didn't have my father in my life. So, you know, thank you so much for just being an inspiration because, you know, that's what we should be from human to human is an inspiration to each other. So you provided me some inspiration with not only my daughters, but also appreciate it.
Awesome. And certainly not least, because you the star of the show here tonight, Miss Watson. So before you go, can you you know, just give us your final thoughts, last words, and how can people get this awesome book? Please let them know.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for even putting the question out there on Facebook, because I'm not a speaker, and well, I am, but I don't like to speak publicly. And I've been in a position several times where I've said, "Oh, okay, I'll do that," and then I'm like, "Ah, why'd I say that?" But it's a purpose. There's a reason, and like I told you before, I forget that I'm an author. And when you put that question out there, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I wrote a book. I forgot I wrote a book." And when I gave you that copy of the book, that was my last copy of my book, because I don't even think about it. But I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share my story and getting it out there. There's a reason that this happened, and I'm a huge believer of that. And as long as we, you know, show our children love, show them by example. I like what the gentleman said. Just tell them you love them. It's okay, but you have to show them, because they know. Kids know. I was a director of a daycare. Kids know at a young age if they are loved, and if they're not, they're gonna look for it somewhere else. We don't want them to look for it somewhere else. That's why we have so many lost children and people taking kids, because they're out looking. So be that difference, not just in your own child's life, but in other children's life if you can. If you like mentors, step up and be a mentor show another child love. Let them know that they are loved, because that's the one thing that will keep them and sustain them, just knowing and that they feel loved. So again, I just want to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity. And the book is on Amazon, um, Through the Eyes of a Fatherless Child, Arthur Joyce Brown Watts. So thank you. I appreciate the wonderful questions. You challenged me today, and I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. Thank you.
I definitely have fun with this interview, and I picked up a couple things, some things that I need to apply in my own life with my daughters. I really like how you just kind of spoke to the fact that if we don't show our daughters what love looks like, they're going to look for it from anywhere. And so, to the men who are watching this, step up, show your daughters that you love them, be there, be present. Like we said at the beginning, presence, your actual presence with the child is way more important than the presence that you give them. And so, let's just be better. Let's work hard. Let's be better as men, and let's rebuild our families and our communities. Again, I'm A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. You can catch us here every Monday night, same time, 7 p.m., where we're addressing issues that can improve men and improve our families. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. God bless you. Have a good night.